Close-Up with the Hollywood Reporter Animation. We're here with Mike Mitchell, Garth Jennings, Mark Osborne, Travis Knight, Seth Rogen, Byron Howard, and John Musker. So, Seth, in a way, you're the new kid on the block.
What are you doing here?
You've done voices like Kung Fu Panda, but as going into writing and directing Sausage Party, what was the learning curve like for you?
It was vast, but honestly, it was my experience on these DreamWorks animated movies that really made us think that it was possible, and through the people we were meeting working on them, and their enthusiasm for the idea and the idea of doing an adult-oriented animated movie. I mean, honestly, like, Conrad was one of the first, Vernon, who I'm sure a lot of you know, was one of the first people we said the idea to, and literally the look on his face is one of the things that made us think it was worth pursuing at all. And we were like, oh, this guy's like a legitimate animation person, and it was as though you had a weird sci-fi idea, and like George Lucas was like, no, that's a good idea, like I would work on that. And so to us, it was, I think, only through me doing voices in these movies that the movie came into existence, and why it actually is like a real movie and not just like something that me and my friends like tried to pull off. Like we knew it had to have like the skin and feel of a real big animated movie, and it's only through those relationships, that I met through DreamWorks that happened at all.
I can't wait anymore. I need to just feel you.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Just the tips?
I can't believe we're doing this.
I know. We're so naughty.
But it's fine, right? I mean, nothing bad's ever happened from just the tips.
No.
Ooh,
oh yeah, go in there. Oh, put it in there.
Tip.
Oh, you wouldn't dare.
You directed Seth in Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Does he take direction well?
Watch what you say. You kind of don't have to give much direction with Seth. It's just like, yeah, put the piece of paper down, let it happen. And I mean, I think every single line in Kung Fu Panda 1 came from you. Like, it's sort of like, we were really workshopping as we were recording. And so, yeah, no, it was so much fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Garth, for Sing was also your first time directing animated.
I shouldn't be here either.
Directing animation.
Complete
your first
chance. Yes, it's my first animated film.
And what was that experience like?
Yeah, it's been nuts. It's only just finished. It's been years as well. I'm really glad I didn't know how long it was going to take when I started, or just how crazy. I was so naive with everything I start. I always think, yeah, I can do that. I can do an animated film. And then about a year in, I got pneumonia, and then but then it came through great. I mean, the team I've got are amazing. And the fact that I can just write and direct it myself without having come up through that world is an amazing gift. But I've loved it. I actually love it. But I've only finished a few weeks ago, so...
And when did you start it? How many years ago?
Well, if you include, like, the first cup of tea I had, like, you're saying, like, that first meeting you had, if you go back to that, that was back in 2011. It's been 5 years. 5.
You're all done.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like a support group. It's like, thank you all very much.
Thank you for sharing.
It means a lot to me.
We know how horrible it is.
No, it's been brilliant. It's been amazing. And it is, I'm sure you know this from Z, but just a miraculous process. It really is. I have to, like, calm down my enthusiasm when I see a shot finished.
Oh, yeah.
Because my team, they're used to it. But I'll be like, wow, that's amazing. And I just end up looking like an idiot. I have to try and be a bit cooler. I'll try and do that next time. But, yeah.
But you do it again? Would you do it?
I would, yes, I would, if I could.
Right.
Yeah, because I've learned so much. Didn't you find that? Like, just tons that you learn.
Oh, yeah.
For 20 years, I'd worked with the same people doing the same live-action stuff. And so this was starting from zero in every way. With everyone I worked with, and the way of working was totally different. So it would be nice to be able to apply what I've learned again, at least one more go around the block on that. It would be lovely, yeah.
You just gotta add some moves and a little bit of, hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Go for it!
Oh, you mean like this?
Try to chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe. There you go, you're a natural.
For the rest of you, what have you applied, you know, in your experiences to your movies, Travis, for Kubo?
Well, Kubo, we have a bunch of newbies here. Kubo was the first film that I directed as well. I've been in animation for a long time, for 20 years now. And in that time, I've been a lot of different things. I was a production assistant to start with, and I did scheduling and coordinating. But I was an animator since I was a kid. And so eventually I moved into actually animating. I was a stop-motion animator. I worked in CG. I worked in development. I run a company. I produced multiple films. And so I think stepping into the director's chair on this film, it was sort of the culmination of all those different experiences. And I think both, and the granularity of it, focusing on the minutia, on the detail. And then as, you know, in a role as a producer or as an executive, you have to have a global view. You have to see the big picture. And I think one of the things that being a director you have to be able to balance is being able to focus on the detail, on the granularity, but also be able to extricate yourself from that and never lose sight of the story you're trying to tell. So I think for me, it was absolutely the hardest thing that I've ever done, directing this film, but it was also the most rewarding. I mean, you really are a part of this incredible community of artists that are passionate and that are innovative, that really care, that pour their souls into something. And 5 years for me as well. I think that's probably not unusual for it to take that long. I mean, it's a long,
Did you know, though, that it was going to be 5 years?
Oh, yeah.
He's been in animation.
Yeah. Okay. We did a film that we worked on for 10 years, so that felt like we were fast-tracking it.
Which one was that? CAROLYN?
That was Box Trolls. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, it takes us a good long while to make these things. I mean, it's filmmaking at the pace of a glacier. So going in, you know that this is going to take a while, and it's why we always try to find those stories that resonate with us personally, that really mean something, because you know, just to spend that kind of time and effort and, you know, things that come at a cost to your personal life and everything else, you don't want to devote that much time and energy into something that's just a pop culture confection, that's just a bit of ephemera. You want to focus on something that matters, something that's meaningful, something that hopefully can enrich people's lives. And so for everything that we try to do, that is the focus. And, you know, paradoxically, the more intimate you make something, the more universal it becomes. And I think that's what I really found on this show, is that, you know, diving into what the story meant for me, unlocking the experiences that I had growing up with my family and with my kids, being able to really lean into that and put that on the screen. I think people see something of themselves in those stories, in those characters. And that's really, I think, what art in its finest form is. It elicits empathy. It gets us to see the world through someone else's eyes. It gets us to experience someone else's story as if it were ours. And I think that, you know, in this world that's so chaotic, I think having some degree of empathy that we can all try to see other people's perspectives is a beautiful thing. And I think that's one of the rare things that the film can do.
You're growing stronger. You might not want to look quite so pleased about that. We grow stronger, the world grows more dangerous. Life has a funny way of keeping things balanced.
Monkey, do you ever say anything encouraging?
I encourage you not to die.
I encourage you not to die.
How do you give your characters their cultural and ethnic identities?
You have to be kind of careful, just speaking from our own perspective on Zootopia. One of the things that I love about animation is that we often ask ourselves, like, why are we animating this film? Why does this have to be an animated film? And for us, what was great about doing a movie about bias and difficulties between groups is that we didn't have to use human beings. You could use different types of animals to be an allegory for what we're experiencing as human beings. And even like 5 years ago, when we all, these movies all seem to take like 5 years ago. But when we first pitched it 5 years ago, we had this predator-prey idea. So that idea was there from the start, but as we did about a year of research into animals, then into human sociology as well, we started to figure out really quickly that these two groups of animals not getting along was just like our own situation in our own world. And so we really dove into bias, and not just like bias, kind of in-your-face bias, but contemporary bias, which is kind of in everything around us. And then as we were making the film, this weird kind of lineup between what we were doing with the film and what was happening in the world, especially in the United States, came out. And so I'm not sure if everyone understands out in the public that we do take 5 or 10 years sometimes to make these films, and that you can't really plan for something like that. So it's interesting when a film winds when a film winds up being timely, but yeah, it's
sausage parties.
It's a home. You knew that people wanted to see food, have an orgy. Is that right?
So ahead of your time.
2016. I know that's what they were doing in my cupboard.
We saw that 10 years out.
To the day.
We had a crazy challenge. Just talking about culture, like Little Prince is a book that's known all over the world, and it's just like, it's crazy. It's been translated into 260 different languages, and I think that's a big reason why it's been sort of seen as this impossible book to adapt. And I initially said no because it's crazy how different the book is in different cultures at different times in people's lives when they read it, and so we were sort of looking for a way to tap into the universal ideas that are there in the book that make the book so universal. And then luckily, the book was able to draw in talent from all over the world that wanted to be involved in the project. And it was like, yeah, incredible to be able to build up not only talent from all over the world, but these different perspectives on why the book resonated with people and has been around for 70 years. And yeah, it was just this, it kind of created this kind of perfect environment for us to really explore not only the book itself, but sort of what the book has meant in people's lives and all over the world. And that was what was crazy when we took the film to different places. Like they would say, oh, the parents, they're Italian parents, aren't they? Or in China they would say, these are Chinese, this is a Chinese mother, and and everybody was really kind of relating to what was universal about the book and the movie. So that was really
Did you show it
exciting.
when it was completed, or did you take it around as you were working on it?
Well, so I'm 6 years in now, because we finished the movie. I was on it 5.5 years, but I spent a year traveling all over the world to different premieres. We premiered the movie in 12 different countries, 12 different premieres, 12 different languages, and it was really kind of incredible.
Sausage party.
Exactly.
12 different supermarkets.
They had them. They just didn't send us.
I had old ladies in 12 different languages come up and hug me and thank me because they had read the book when they were kids, and it was really kind of incredible to then see how the film resonated in these different cultures where the book was important. Yeah, it was crazy.
Good morning. You're wearing a funny kind of hat.
It is a hat for salutes, actually, to raise when people acclaim me. Clap your hands, yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you. Aw, see?
Well, we had the challenge in our movie, Moana. We were dealing with this culture that, we were really outsiders to in a way. I knew something about the South Pacific just, from a distance, reading books set there and seeing paintings by Paul Gauguin, that sort of thing. But I pitched the idea to John, it was 5 years ago, and I pitched it because having seen that stuff, I started to read Polynesian mythology, and I'd never read that before, and I discovered there was this character, Maui, who was bigger than life, and he could pull up islands with his magical fish hook, and he was a shapeshifter, and all these amazing things in animation. And why has this never been done before? So we cobbled together a story and pitched it to John and Lasseter, and he said, this is great, I love the arena, but you've got to dig deeper, do more research. So we were forced to go to Tahiti, Samoa, and Fiji, and that. But it was about 5 years ago. So for about 3 weeks we did that, but our development people arranged a really deep dive into the culture where it wasn't the tiki bars and that sort of thing. We really met with anthropologists and archaeologists and linguists and cultural ambassadors. And the challenge in our movie then was, as we went forward, we kept those people involved because we really wanted to be faithful to the culture and yet make a movie that hopefully would entertain people around the world that don't know that stuff, and that it has to work as a movie on its own. But it was sort of an added challenge on this movie that we didn't have. I know, like when we did Aladdin, and even you talk about the research, our research on Aladdin, it was during the first Gulf War. So our research, we went to the LA Convention Center. There was a Saudi Arabian expo that we went to. And that's a true story. That's as much research as, we did some research.
That's pretty good.
But, yeah.
On Kung Fu Panda, we just Googled China. That was as far as we could get.
Thank God for Google. Yeah. So this time we met with people that really stayed involved, and it really helped us on the movie to try and keep, authenticity and just make a movie that they would embrace, because we developed a personal relationship with the people we met there, and we really felt like, they had said to us, one of these elders said, for years, we've been swallowed by your culture. For one time, can you be swallowed by our culture? So that was sort of our little mantra going into the movie, to try and, that was Papa Mape, an elder on Moorea, and so we wanted to make a movie that Papa Mape would embrace, and the people in the islands. And so far, the people that have seen the film have really loved it so far, so we'll see how that plays out.
It was Moana, right?
Yes, and you will restore the heart.
I'm out. Oh, come on!
Now, despite an enormous amount of research that I know you did into it, there was some press early on about the portrayal of Polynesian body. Did that surprise you?
Not entirely, but when we designed the character Maui, even when we read his descriptions in these myths, he was described different ways. Some he was short, some he was squat, some he was like a leading man, and that was the thing. That it was actually an oral culture, and so there was nothing written down. So every island almost, he's a pan-Pacific demigod. Different versions of him existed. So we really wanted to make him kind of super heroic. We sort of felt like if he's going to pull up islands, he's got to look like he can really pull up an island with his magical fish hook. He can't be too, you know, he's got to look powerful and kind of super heroic. So that's what we were going for. Certainly, on our trip, we took pictures of all sorts of people in the islands, and we did sketches. I had sketches in my sketchbook, and so his design was based on loosely on some of the people we had seen in the islands, and you know, we brought Dwayne Johnson in. He was going to do the voice, and he said, I like him, he's lovable. Yeah, I like him. So, I mean, we knew it.
You gotta listen to him.
I know. That guy's, he knows something, doesn't he?
He's really strong.
We were afraid to say no to that, so, yeah. But, so people who've seen the film, I think he played a little differently in some of the stills that people were reacting to in the early going. When they see him in the context of the film, I think he plays differently, so. Yeah.
Now, Seth, you also had a little bit in the press about the cultural, the taco, for example. Does that surprise you?
No. You know, our movie is directly about racial stereotypes and how religion divides us, and how our beliefs divide us, and how we look different divides us, and how we speak different divides us. And at the same time, you know, as a lover of Disney animated movies, you know, we took a lot of cues from those types of movies, which, you know, as soon as, you know, they don't use it to the same narrative effect, but you look at Cars and, like, the Fiat's Italian, and, like, you know, the Love Bug's a stoner, like, the tow truck's, you know, like a Southern guy, you know, and it's very much a part of the animation vernacular, and so we thought if we're gonna do an animated movie and it's about these things, then it seemed like a perfectly organic opportunity to really lean into all those things and not just do them, but to really talk about them and to confront those types of things as head-on as possible, and to really make it part of the overall narrative of the movie.
Were there any characters that you put in and then you decided in the end to remove?
Oh yeah, tons.
Okay, tell us about that.
Too many. I mean, you know, we try to make, I think, in my personal opinion, my favorite comedies feel like they're really riding a line between what people think they should be allowed to watch in a movie and what seems like maybe you shouldn't even be allowed to see it in some way. And I think, you know, my favorite comedy, there's like a danger to it. There's like a thing where you're looking around at the other people to be like, are we really seeing this? Is this happening? Those are my favorite experiences in movie theaters in my life, when I'm watching a movie and I literally have to look around the people to, like, make sure we're all seeing the same thing, you know? And in order to do that, you have to really, there's a real trial and error process, and we screen the movie a ton. I don't know, that was really something I wanted to ask all you guys about, is your testing process, because our only way to reconcile exactly what you're talking about was to test it exactly like we would any of our other movies, which is to put it in front of real audiences a lot, even in incredibly early forms, hand-drawn. We showed like a theater full of people in like the Lower East Side, like a completely hand-drawn version of the entire movie from beginning to end, just like a recruited audience, you know.
How did it go?
Well, what was interesting is that some of the parts functioned as well in that form as they did as you ever could have hoped them to expect, and as they ultimately functioned in the movie. And so what that told us is that it wasn't an excuse, its rough form, to be light on it. If it didn't function in this rough form, if it was offensive in this rough form, if there were some points we were trying to make or some dots we were trying to connect, we couldn't blame it on the form. And
do you guys all, do you
How do the
you
rest
test your
of you
film? Does
test?
everyone test your films?
We do. We tend to assemble it internally first. Like we'll do multiple. I think
there's like 7 or 8 internal screenings. We only did really one public preview, or 2 really, on our movie. And generally we just do a couple to
used to,
And because it's just I think we're afraid of it being too rough for people to understand, and people inside still they watch it kind of as a movie. They can kind of project the finish.
Audiences are getting pretty savvy.
They are. Even the ones that saw your film, they got it. So,
like, I was shocked at how people were willing. Like, I mean, like boards. Like,
we did on the Little Prince, and we did it all boards, and it was we did 2 test screens, and the first one we were terrified. We were terrified because there were like 2-year-olds in the audience, and we're like, this is never going to work.
No, they'll take the leap before an adult will. A kid goes, oh yeah, storyboards.
Well, we found actually
it was great.
In layout is where it sucks. Because it's just like, we actually found that like
don't show anybody layout.
Our testing was because we did several tests. We just kept doing it. We just although some of them because it was layout, we learned almost nothing because there's no express boards were actually people were way more willing to take the storyboard leap than the layout leap.
We couldn't even show layout to our crew. I mean, they know what's going on, and still it's like
it feels out of the movie.
But we tested versions of the movie where there was like 40 minutes of layout, and we were just like we just had to eat it. But it was still always informative.
I like to test. You guys like to test your movies?
We do. I've learned to love it.
We do. Got to say,
acquired taste.
I wasn't sure about it. I mean, I've loved every test we've done.
I was terrified. Did you just walk in there like happily? I was really frightened.
I'm happy to take out something that's not working.
Oh no, absolutely.
And when a joke doesn't get a laugh, or I was curious. We have a clown that's murdered in our film, and I'm like, well, that's fine, but that's never going to make it. Lo and behold. The kids and moms hate clowns. It's in the film. That's fascinating to me. I'm like, I can't.
Did you after the killing? Did you like?
I was like, let's do 2 or 3 more clowns. No, it's just one little bit, but I'm fascinated by the testing process, and I enjoy it.
Would that be still in sketch form, like sort of?
It was still in sketch form.
Yeah, we did that too. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, all boards.
So while we're on the subject of Charles, another thing I wanted to talk about was a number of you have movies with female protagonists, but they are not out looking for a prince in the movies. So can talk about the way you're portraying your protagonists in these movies.
We wanted to break the mold of the animated princess completely. Instead of most princesses have big eyes and little bitty waists and little tiny hooves that they walk around on, and we wanted to keep this ugly, cute, big melon head, giant teeth. She doesn't have to wear uncomfortable princess shoes, which I think is cool. I don't think your princess has any shoes.
No, she does not.
That's cool. Who needs these shoes? But it was like really fun and difficult though to make her like she's such a positive character. We wanted to make a film about happiness, and we wanted to we really researched happiness and did everything that everyone here is doing of like we want to make our film about something. Yeah. And so we wanted to explore happiness and how undervalued a positive attitude is. So our lead character is super optimistic, but we wanted to make sure that she wasn't vacant. It was nice. We took a cue from you, from Judy Hopps. And we would use that all the time, like, is this something Judy Hopps would do? Because Judy is like, your character's so positive, so positive but not vacant. And, and it was really helpful. Anna Kendrick came in and she helped us find that character with her voice. I'm sure your actress did too.
Yeah, Jennifer Goodwin.
Like added like an intelligence that we really liked.
Get back up again. Branch, my man, you are right on time.
Oh, right, like you knew I was coming.
Yes, I figured after the 3rd hug time, getting eaten by a Bergen wouldn't seem so bad.
And I figured there was no way you could do this by yourself. Guess we were both right.
All right, let's do this.
Judy similarly is not your typical female friend, and she's aspiring to be a police officer.
Yeah. So. Also no shoes, if I'm not mistaken.
Also no shoes. She has like spats on.
Oh no, really?
Our bun has shoes.
Thank God you covered up that bun.
I'll be honest.
But you guys are right. I think like people said, it has to be about something, and I think the reason I think these films land is because we all do collectively go back to reality. Like we actually interview people who've been through this. Like a part of our research on Judy was talking to female police officers who've come up through the ranks over the years and different sort of generational police officers and finding out like their struggles as women kind of going into a mostly male-dominated profession, and like how this one officer, this lieutenant we talked to, she had come up during the 1980s. through a California police organization, and the guys around her at first didn't trust her, not because they had any sort of like direct animosity toward her, but because going out on patrol, like they weren't sure how to, can I interact with this person the same way that I interact with a male? They would actually like protect her out on patrol, and she was like, don't protect me, don't not let me go in first, let me do my effing job. And sort of the determination that we saw in those women made their way into Judy's character, because Judy doesn't want to be treated differently because she's small or because she's female or because it hasn't been done before. And we've seen that again and again. You can look at the movie in a bunch of different ways. Like we've tried to represent bias from many, many different angles. So no matter who you are, you can look at the film and find your struggle.
You know what I mean? You're not that kind of predator.
The kind that needs to be muzzled? The kind that makes you think you need to carry around fox repellent? Yeah, don't think I didn't notice that little item the first time we met. So, let me ask you a question. Are you afraid of me? Do you think I might go nuts? You think I might go savage? You think I might try to eat you? I knew it.
Now, Moana, too. Now, here's a female protagonist who's growing into a leadership role in the village.
She's going to be the future leader of the village. It's really a coming-of-age story. There is no romance, and I know we were at Comic-Con, we did a little pitch, and someone asked a question, I just sort of incidentally said, yeah, there's no romance. There was a gasp in the room. And it was like, what? What are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? How can you, are you mad? Are you insane? But we really liked that challenge to really make her, she's really the hero of the story. It's a hero's journey, and gender is kind of taken out of the equation a little bit in our story. I mean, it isn't like her problem is that she's a girl. It really is, does she know who she is, just in terms of her own abilities, and the ocean kind of picks her to go on this mission. She's really on a mission to save the world, which is often a role that you give a guy. And it was great to have a girl and have her be an action-adventure hero, and we really designed her, as you say. We took you from Mike, and we really tried to design her in ways so she could do these amazing action-adventure, you know, jump off a cliff and sail a boat on the open sea, and it was fun to you know, have a character look different than the other ones have looked, yeah.
And can I just start in, because Little Prince is like, it's a book about a boy, and all the characters are male. And that was actually one of the things, like to say, oh, I'm gonna make a movie called The Little Prince and it stars a little girl and she's the main character of the story, was actually a huge challenge, I think, going into it, and a huge, like, kind of crazy idea. And this is pre-Frozen, and, you know, like, my daughter actually was the inspiration. My daughter Maddie, who, like, we watched all the Miyazaki films, we watched, you know, Mulan over and over on repeat, you know, and so yeah, it just made a lot of sense to try to bring balance to the book when, you know, the idea of sort of adapting the book is kind of crazy, and so we, you know, wanted to keep the book small and keep it what it is and let it be what it is, and then build this larger story about this little girl's experience with the book. And so in some ways it's like, it makes perfect sense, and you put the little girl and the little prince side by side, but it was one of those crazy ideas I had to convince, you know,
still
everybody.
got hugged by a grandma.
Oh yeah, many, yeah.
That's a sign. That's a real sign that things have worked. If a grandmother hugs.
That's grandma hugging good.
That's on the poster.
Let's switch gears to music a little bit, because that's such a big part of many of your movies. Seth, what brought on the idea for the Sausage Party song?
I mean, again, it all came from a love of the animated movies that we grew up watching, Aladdin and The Little Mermaid and The Lion King, and then as Pixar movies started coming out.
Will you sing a few bars for us, though?
It's,
could probably do
E-flat. Out there, the gods are gathering. There's so many versions of it, actually, that, like, I have a hard time remembering which one we wound up on, because we were probably changing the lyrics up until, like when we started recording.
I was invited to an early read-through, and you guys just broke into song all together. And I guess you guys are all performers and friends, but it was like magic. I was like, what is this film?
That was an early version of the song that Kyle and Ariel, who two are the other writers of the movie, had written an early version of the song, and Ariel plays guitar, and we would do tons of readings of the
Did you guys record together, by the way? Because you guys all did read-throughs together.
I was at almost every recording, but I still wouldn't record myself often, because it just, I always hear, like, I always hear Rango, they recorded everyone at the same time. Like,
it doesn't matter.
No, I think one of, like, the things that you get great performances is because of how, like, one-person-centric the recording process is. And it's the exact opposite of what acting normally is, which is, like, a real team sport. Like, being a voice in a movie is not a team sport. It's like, you can really focus on your performance. You have to worry about anyone else in any way. But the singing was hilarious, and I can't sing, so it was fun to do it. But we actually got Alan Menken to do the music for the movie. And we first just approached him to do a song, and then he just really loved the movie. And he's like, I would love to score the entire thing. And we were like, yes, that would be absolutely incredible. Just do it.
On the subject of music, obviously Sing has tons of songs in it. So how did you pick the songs, and how did you decide which actor, which character?
Who gets what? Well, there's loads. I mean, I think it's now like, I think the last count was like 104 pieces of music, which is insane.
How long is the movie?
Yes, it's 5 hours. It's 5 years. 5 years. Yeah, 5-year movie. No, I mean, some of that is only for a few seconds. You know, some of it's like a minute and a half. Some of it's full. It's a huge spectrum. But honestly, a lot of the music, the choices were starting to go into the script as I was writing it, because even though it's music from any time period, any genre, it kind of has to not only work for that character, but it has to also tell the story a bit. At least a bit. So you couldn't just pick anything you liked. It had to do 2 jobs pretty well. And then you were just thinking about that character, like Rosita, who's played by Reese Witherspoon, is a piglet mum who has like 25 piglets, and her songs were like much more of the sort of pop stuff that she would be listening to on the radio. And then someone else like Scarlett Johansson's character is a porcupine that is in a goth band. Those were original songs that were written for her, and that her character is kind of writing herself. So everyone was different. Seth MacFarlane is singing Frank Sinatra songs, as he does pretty well already.
Yeah, side business.
Yeah, as a side business, that's going pretty well.
Really well.
But yeah, so it was and then they all sang their own parts, which was great. That was the deal. Everyone had to sing their own songs, and that's a lot of fun as well.
But you had originals and
originals and old stuff and new stuff, and
we did too. We had songs from like the '60s, the '70s, the '80s, the '90s, and then
you could pick from anywhere. It just had to do the job, right? It just had to be great.
We wanted to make sure that, like any good musical, that the story doesn't stop for a musical moment and then carry on. The music is continuing the story. Yeah. So that was our thing, and the only time we ran into a challenge is at the end in the 3rd act. And fortunately, we went to this guy, Justin Timberlake. Yeah. You guys know this dude? He knows how to sing.
Remind me.
We went to him to just do a voice. He's a really funny guy on Saturday Night Live. And then
he also sings now.
Yeah, he sings now.
He doesn't stop.
No, but we had like Earth, Wind, and Fire already in there, and like
which Earth, Wind, and Fire song?
September.
Oh, come on, that's the greatest.
We had Lionel Richie's Hello. We had Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah. So he heard what we're doing, and he was like, I want to help you guys. And we said, like you said to Menken, we said, send me your resume. No, we're like, yes, thank you. And then we had this problem at the end where he's like, well, I'll just write an original song for that bit. And then he goes, and maybe we'll just make it a hit song too. And I laughed. I thought that was funny. But then the joke's on me, because that's what he does for a living. He makes hit songs, and it became a hit song.
Yeah, but it's one thing to say it. Did he actually say it before he'd written it?
He did.
Oh, just
from my memory.
That just shows he has more confidence than I'll ever have.
So, John, tell us about how you brought Lin-Manuel Miranda on.
Well, yeah, that was interesting. We knew we wanted to have music in the movie. The music's such a big part of the Pacific Islands. You go everywhere. There's songs of farewell, songs of hello, all that sort of thing. It really is a part of the thing. So we first got a musician named Opetaia Fua'i, who has a band, Tavaka. He's from Samoa, so we had that sort of color to the score, but we wanted to pair him up with somebody who did narrative songs, could tell a story and all that. And so Tom McDougall, our music VP, 3 years ago, he set up a trip to us. We went to New York. We met with 8 or 10 different lyricists and composers, one of which was Lin-Manuel Miranda, and this was before Hamilton. He had been working on Hamilton. We didn't know anything about it, and we knew In the Heights, his play, and one of the things we liked about In the Heights is that shifts from Spanish to English very effortlessly. He also writes those hilarious things that Neil Patrick Harris does on the Tonys, those jokey parody songs. So he can write, hard, he could write really funny. We met him. He was really charismatic, and he had all sorts of ideas, and he was open to collaborating with someone from the South Pacific. So that was all cool. And then he mentioned, incidentally, he's working on this hip-hop crazy, you know, musical with Alexander Hamilton for the public theater, and we're like, okay, well, in 2 weeks when that's over, we'll have plenty of time.
Good luck.
We'll have your total focus.
You don't know.
And something happened such that then when we were working on the movie then, when we'd have meetings with him, we would Skype back and forth. And so he'd be in his dressing room in his afternoon, you know, eating Chinese food before he went on stage and whatnot, and talking about the songs. And he had thrown his neck out somehow, so he had this chiropractic device. Yeah, so in the second verse, we can kind of... And it was like that for a year. But we were so fortunate. I mean, he was great to work with, but it was pre-Hamilton.
Travis, tell us about how your theme song came to be.
Oh, the end credits song? Well, you know, when we first started developing the story, you know, music was such a central part of this film. It was more important than anything we've ever done before. It played such a central role. And I think music generally in our lives and our films, it does mean a lot. I mean, oftentimes music can give voice to those strange, inarticulate emotions that we have, you know, rolling around within us. It's why pop songs are evergreen. But so the composer that we started talking to was Dario Marianelli, who we'd worked with previously on The Box Trolls. Just an incredible, brilliant composer. And, you know, Kubo is effectively, he's like an Orpheus figure. He's gifted with divine music. So, you know, whatever he's feeling, his emotions, he can bring these things to life. Whatever he's feeling, that comes out in his music, and you see how that affects his art, pretty much like it does to all of us. It's in that way, it's really a metaphor for creation. And so I explained that to Dario, and I said, okay, look, I just need you to write godlike music.
Simple test.
Yeah. And,
what did he say when you said that?
He took a beat. He said,
sure.
Did
a Justin Timberlake. He said, you got it.
Pointed to the fences.
Give me 2 weeks.
So we started working with Dario in that way, and we were writing, you know, pieces of music throughout to give voice to Kubo's emotions. And then all along the way, there was, you know, for the end credits song, I knew that I wanted something that was really special, that was really evocative of the themes of the film, that spoke to what the film was about, something that was a timeless expression of love and empathy, which is ultimately what the film is. It's a film that's about, you know, forgiveness and empathy and healing. And for me, and because of the connections that it has with the themes of the film with the boy and his mother, and because of my connection with me and my mother, the song that expressed that to me was George Harrison's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." My mom was a teenager when the Beatles were on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time, and thus she became a lifelong fan of the Liverpool Lads. And so it was one of the things that we bonded over when I was a kid, you know, playing the Beatles records on the hi-fi. And one of the favorite songs that we had was "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." And if you listen to the lyrics, I mean, that is effectively what it is. For us, it felt like it was an extension of the theme, that it was an expression of a mother's love for her child, this gift that she sends him before she moves on. And so we started talking to Dario about doing a reinterpretation of that song, using the same basic fabric, the same threads that we were using to weave the score for the film, and applying that to this classic 60s rock song. And using traditional Japanese instruments and some romantic instruments as well, you know, melded within it. And so he came, you know, he started working on this arrangement, and then we started speaking with a vocalist who could actually give life to the film in a way that felt like it was evocative of Kubo's mother. And so that's when we started speaking to Regina Spektor, who, you know, I'm a huge fan of. You know, I think as animators, oftentimes we work in solitude. It's kind of a monastic existence. You spend a lot of time on your own. You know, on a stop-motion stage, you're walled off by curtains. Sometimes you won't see humans for hours, even days. And so the thing that often helps you get in the emotional state that you need to is to listen to music. And so, you know, I listened to a ton of Regina Spektor's records over the years. She's probably inspired more of my animation than any other artist. And so when she finally said yes, that she wanted to be a part of the film, it really was like a gift from the universe. And so those combinations of things, the great George Harrison, the great Dario Marianelli, the great Regina Spektor, blended together, it really created the perfect grace note for the film. And I think it's just a beautiful note to end the movie on.
Yeah, and then for Zootopia, Try Everything, you had Shakira in the movie.
And Sia. Yeah, what is
her creature in that film? What is she?
Oh, she's a gazelle.
A gazelle.
Beautiful gazelle. Yeah. And it's amazing with the two of them, with Sia and Shakira, because when Shakira came in, she was in Los Angeles, and we pitched the movie to her, and a lot of other people had talked to her about doing animated films. She'd always said no, but she immediately said yes to us, because when she was a child in Colombia, she told us that she had wanted to be a police officer growing up, because she saw sort of
a lot of police activity in Colombia.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, there was a lot of she saw kind of bullies around her kind of growing up, and she was like, I love the story, I love Judy, and so I think she related to that character. And these guys are like, if you can start building the songs and the score from an emotional place. That's really where we
And when did Sia get involved?
Sia was in like almost immediately because Sia and Shakira.
Before Shakira or post Shakira?
But at the same time, Shakira knew her, and so she said, "I'd recommend you guys go to Sia." So we talked to Sia. She wrote this great, enthusiastic song that kind of encapsulates everything that Judy is feeling as she goes into that city. And then on the side of the score, Michael Giacchino did the same thing. Like he's amazing because he came in and he asked us, and I had never worked with him before, and so he talked to Rich, my fellow director, and Clark, our producer, and he said, "Okay, just show me. Don't show me everything. Show me the 6 most emotional moments in your movie." And so we sat down with him, we showed him, we cut together, it was probably about 10 or 12 minutes of film. We sat down, we watched all of these different scenes, including like the breakup, when the bias really comes out between Nick and Hops, and the apology when she kind of steps forward and kind of owns what she's done, and there's leaving home, all of this stuff. And he went away, he didn't know much about the film at that point, because he just wanted to kind of absorb that. He went home, and over a period of about a week and a half, he wrote this amazing 10-minute suite of themes and music. And he comes back and says, "I don't know where these themes fit yet, but this is what I felt watching it." So he writes from a very intuitive place. And there was one theme that he wrote, which was, he said, "This is to represent what Judy feels in when you have all this optimism, all this expectation about what your new world is going to be like when you go off to college, when you kind of move across the country, when you move away from your parents, and then you find out that that world is not what you pictured. What do you do with that enthusiasm? What do you do with that energy?" And he wrote this poignant piano theme that was so heartfelt. So with a movie that has a lot of comedy in it, he really surprised us with doing this kind of very dark, kind of melancholy, but very sweet theme, and it surprised us, and it influenced the path of the film from that point on, because it made Judy's journey deeper. And he wrote this triumphant version of it that was so good. We didn't have a place for it in the movie. We actually created a set of shots to support that theme because we could not make the film final without having that represented somewhere in the film.
Did he take it over to Star Trek or something like that?
He was like, "Man, let's take this over here." But he's remarkable. But like,
Seth, did you work with Michael Giacchino?
Yeah, he scored 50-50.
Oh, right, great movie.
He literally scored it in his living room with like a guitar and a friend with a guitar. And it's music I still remember. Like,
he used to be an animation producer, by the way.
Well, he worked in game industry.
He scored a movie that I did over at Disney, and it added like 20 million. Like, it just made it look such like a big film. Amazing. It's a cheesy looking film, but that's sky high. But when he does the score, it like, well, this isn't cheesy.
It really does elevate everything. Like,
totally. 100%. And he's into story, which is like what everyone's talking about, is like how important story is to every decision.
We actually, Hans Zimmer, I was so lucky to get Hans Zimmer after the great experience on Kung Fu Panda. He brought on a friend of his named Richard Harvey to co-compose with him, and there was this amazing moment talking about story. Like, Hans approaches it so much as a filmmaker. Like, there was a moment where they were having a discussion about, I gave a note, and Richard was like talking about the score and saying like, "Oh, but it needs this and this and this," and Hans said, "Stop, you're thinking like a musician." He said, "You need to think like a filmmaker." And that was like, and it really, he's so amazing at sort of guiding the process, and he thinks like a filmmaker, and I think it really, it elevated things in such an amazing way for us as we were working and getting this material back, is inspiring us.
How did it work with you with all the music? Because we had Christoph Beck, and he would like weave in Lionel Richie's Hello into the score, which was cool. It made it all these weird songs that we had fit together. Did your songs affect
Joby Talbot, who did the score for our film, he had an unenviable task, really, because he had to sort of somehow
make it all together.
Yeah, without sounding like, "Oh, and here's some score." Because it's very easy to have all these fabulous songs and then just, "Here's a bit of score." But he did an amazing job of that, and it was really just focusing on the character, focusing straight on Matthew McConaughey's character.
Character and story.
And although he does do a similar thing at times where it's a Beatles song we've used, Golden Slumbers, and that features very heavily throughout the movie, and he would do a lovely job of getting in and out of that, which is not, I don't think, an easy thing to do, but it was beautiful work. Magic. I mean, that bit when you're recording the orchestra is got to be one of the best bits of the process, isn't it?
We recorded the Sausage Party score at Abbey Road.
No, did you really?
We did Trolls at Abbey Road.
Classic guy.
By the way, let the musicians see what
they did, and actually, like, they kept laughing, and which was a very encouraging sign. But actually, like, we would have to show it to them to like get it out of their system a few times. We could do this.
It's so weird at Abbey Road, they let any clown go in it and play on Lennon's piano.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sitting there.
It's like, are you sure like using the microphone that they recorded these songs on.
Wow. Yeah, don't you want to put police tape around that and like lose sight?
And they don't care.
It's lovely.
Topic real quickly, you often put Easter eggs in your movies. Can you tell us about any that we might have missed?
Well, we have the Breaking Bad stuff is kind of that's obvious stuff that's in ours that is.
You've got those DVDs.
Yeah, we have our DVDs.
Yeah.
We kind of, well, it's nice in that, you know, we work for a big company, a big
What's the name
company.
of it?
Well, you wouldn't have heard of it. But the fact that we were able, I think people get such a kick out of us sort of like taking pokes at ourselves.
Yeah, making fun.
Making fun. When we loved that we were able to kind of represent the kind of the weasel. He's got like a pirating business. He's got like a DVD pirating business on the side.
great.
He has all these horrible knockoffs of Disney films in there. Yeah, like Pig Hero 6 and I think we had Moana was like a cat like on a raft, and there was Floatsin 2 was two otters and stuff, and Wrangled was a horse as long blonde hair. Yeah, so. But that's one. Do you have something?
We do have some. We, if you look carefully, Olaf from Frozen. How can he be in a movie in the South Pacific? He appears a few times in the movie, but he's hard to find. Oh, wow. We do have.
Why?
Why? Why is it hard to find?
No,
I can't give it away.
Yeah. Okay. I'll wait to see the film.
And we have Flounder from Little Mermaid is in there briefly, and. They're fun, you know, these little, that you'll have to watch it over and over to find these, though, obviously, so please go to the theater many times.
You need the scale of the theater.
You won't see that the big screen.
If you really want to catch your Easter eggs.
I want to briefly talk about a few crafts items. So on Kubo, you were very much inspired by and used origami in the production. Could you talk about that decision?
Yeah, I mean, origami was central to the film. I mean, we don't want a house style visually with the kind of films that we do. You know, we explore different kinds of stories, and so we want the look of the film to arise naturally about what the needs of the narrative are, what the theme of the story is. And so, you know, if you look at all of our films, they all look very distinct from each other. And because of what Kubo was, we were heavily inspired by classic forms of Japanese art, including origami was a big one because that's the art form that Kubo uses to bring his stories to life. In a lot of ways, it was just a metaphor for what we do as filmmakers, as animators. You know, he has a simple geometric shape, and through his talent and his imagination and his skill, he's able to actually transform it, bring it to life, which is exactly what we do as animators. And so a lot of us as animators saw ourselves in this character, including myself. And you know, the geometric shapes that you find in origami, we thought you see that stuff reflected all throughout the production design of the movie in a different way than the kind of designs that we've used in the past. A lot, you know, when we started making the film, we talk about it as kind of a stop-motion David Lean film, which is kind of absurd when you think about what that means, or kind of a monumental Kurosawa myth, but, you know, in miniature, because the sets are effectively shot on something like this, a tabletop, a gussied-up tabletop that we needed to make look like an epic landscape. And so a lot of different tricks to make that come to life. And visually being inspired by no theater and ink wash paintings and origami and ukiyo-e, you know, classic Japanese woodblock prints, we wanted the film to be evocative of that. We wanted the film effectively to look like a moving, living woodblock print. And you know, getting style in a movie and to get things that behave and look natural but are a very stylized world, that can be pretty tricky. But if you're able to crack that, and we have an extraordinary team of artists, if you're able to make that happen, then it looks like things that people haven't seen before. And I'm really, really proud of the way it came together.
Okay. What advice would you give a first-time animation director?
don't do it.
Yeah. Stop now while there's still time.
Look what it's done to all of us. No, you know, I think
look at our posture.
I think the main thing is that you have to be passionate about it. I mean, in a lot of ways, working in animation can be something of a thankless task. You know, you're working in isolation, you're working for long hours. You have to love what you do. You don't expect adulation, you don't expect recognition. You do it because it's a part of you. I've been in animation, working in animation for 20 years. I've loved animation. It's been a part of my life for over 30 years. And so if there's something that you're driven by, if there's something that you love, then, you know, even if you're working really, really hard and killing yourself, which you have to do if you're working in animation, it takes a lot out of you. But if it's something that matters to you, if it's something that means something to you, a part of yourself that you have to express, then it's a worthwhile exercise. It's a worthwhile endeavor. I mean, I could not imagine a better life for myself. This is my life's work, and I love what I'm able to do, to be able to tell stories, to be able to connect with people, to be able to bind them together. And if you have that within, you know, inside of you, then working in animation is probably the best thing you can possibly do.
John, what about you?
I love animation as well, and I still think, despite all the CG and despite perhaps Seth not knowing how to draw, I think knowing how to draw is a great thing. Byron Howard.
I've tried.
Okay, I know. Can you demonstrate here while we're at it? Byron Howard, great draftsman, amazing draftsman that carries over into his films. I do think being able to express it, I don't know, Garth, you may not, do you draw?
I'm amazing.
Okay.
No.
I do think
I'm the doodler guy.
Okay, well, even doodling,
like something like this. Give me something like that.
Well, I just think being able to communicate an idea visually is sort of a cornerstone, I think, of animation, even in all its forms, CG, stop motion, and hand-drawn where there is hand-drawn. So I would recommend people, if they can, to get some familiarity with being able to express themselves visually, just as sort of a building block in their arsenal.
Now, over the course of making an animated film, you're able to shift gears, try things, edit as you're working on it. So curious about the relationships between some of your characters. Was there ever a point where, with Judy and Nick, you sat down and said, you know, should they kiss?
Oh, yeah, but it's funny because like when the movie came out, it's like,
they should do that.
The world is divided.
It's a whole subculture.
It's just based on their muzzles alone.
It's dynamics with a rigging.
It's not like a taco and a bagel.
I mean, they had hot dogs that could do it, so how could they not do it?
It's a rigging challenge.
It's been debated a lot. Like, we're very aware of it on social media because like half the audience wants them to get involved with each other and half don't. And what we talked about in kind of creating their relationship, like what Jared Bush and Phil Johnson did with the script was great, because we talked about shows like Moonlighting or Northern Exposure, where you have great tension and chemistry, you know, but like those shows were always the best for me when something's there.
They got wrecked once they got together.
Yeah, it gets wrecked when they get together. But so that's, you know, we'll see where it goes in the future. But
especially if that's not what the story's about. You know, that's not your story.
That wasn't
and
the story.
And same with us. Like everyone wanted those two together, and maybe they'll hook up eventually. So maybe 3 or 4.
Well, really create that tension.
Very long arc.
What I like about it's Poppy, right?
Poppy Branch.
What I like about Poppy and Judy is like they're both. It's not a romance-centered story for them. It's like the fact that they can be sort of strongly like determined characters. Without that, it can be a part of what the story is. Don't get us wrong, I think. But there's something about that that's a little bit refreshing to kind of explore kind of diverse storytelling and kind of just those roles don't have to be exactly what we've seen in the past. And what's a nice thing about seeing like people around the table here and even talking about hopefully what you're asking about, like what would you tell a new filmmaker? I would say do it. Like if you're a film student now, if you have a diverse background, if you're female, if you're from a different country, if you don't see yourself being represented on screen, animation is a great medium to explore filmed ideas. It's a great collaborative process. Like we work with amazingly talented people. We do amazing art. We can work with great stories that have been around for many years and bring them to life. But there's something about this, the way this medium works that is such an education for me over the years. I've been, Travis, around for about 25 years in the industry, and I've learned so much. Like every time I get involved in a new film, I learn from the masters like Ron and John are the reason I got into animation in the first place, and it's that spark and enthusiasm that carries you through. I see it in these film students, college students, but it's such an amazing thing to be able to work in this this medium of film, and the less limited we can be as to what the medium can communicate, the better. That's why the films are getting better and more interesting and deeper and more layered.
And it still feels like the Orson Welles thing, where I feel like we've got the greatest train set ever invented. We get to play with this train set, and I think your films are like everyone at this table. It's really just sort of you can do such grand things on a canvas that just.
Well, speaking of diverse, all of our films, none of our characters could cross over and be like every one of these films is so unique from like design-wise.
Yeah. We do have a few scenes with hot dogs in there.
Exactly.
But they're in the background, and we really love
So I'm going to go around the table on this one. What cartoon character did you have a crush on as a child?
A crush?
Oh, wow.
As a child, I can't cite like Sausage Party right now.
Sausage Party, go for it.
That taco is amazing.
That taco. I don't know. I don't think I had a crush on a cartoon character.
I like this movie called Three Caballeros that Disney did was amazing and really inspirational for trolls. It's not necessarily, I didn't have a crush on a...
You had a creative crush on
creative crush, thank you.
Jose
Karaoke?
No.
Panchito? She was pretty nice, with the fruit basket on her head.
It definitely got a bit confusing when Jessica Rabbit came out. We were all a bit like,
in a league of her own.
Wait a minute.
I don't think you're going to get a good answer.
I think you're jumping past crush.
But it was less of a crush and more like, I don't know if I should feel these things.
This is confusing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll go with
Mark,
creative crush. I'll go with creative crush, and I'll say Totoro. My neighbor Totoro. Like, to me, like
Classy
that
answer.
character.
Nice.
Yeah, well, but that character, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen. It was, and we watched that movie with my kids like over and over and over. Like it's in that tonal example that Miyazaki set in that film, and the way he developed that character, and just what the magic of that character, I think, has been a huge inspiration for anybody working in animation, and so that's that.
Travis?
Oh, sorry.
That's a classy answer, but it's a total cop-out. For me, the best childhood cartoon for kindling strange erotic feelings that you don't understand was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Everyone was rippling pectorals, chiseled abs.
Well, that was She-Ra. So you're talking about She-Ra.
But She-Ra was not mine. Tila was mine.
Okay.
So I think that's what I had to go. Just the full-on bondage outfit.
Wow.
It's a little interesting for something that's geared towards young boys.
Can't make that out of paper.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Jessica Rabbit probably was. I watched that movie a lot as a kid because I liked it creatively, but I had something to do with it.
Yeah.
I was on the attracted like Chun-Li from Street Fighter. That was kind of more my thing. I was attracted to video game characters more than cartoons. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, honestly, that was one of the most fun things about making our movie was that, there is kind of this forbidden fruit, so to speak, in animation where they imply it and they show it and they highly sexualize a lot of characters and have for years and years and years, but it almost seems like they've never taken it to the level where it could go, but you just haven't gotten to see it.
You guys did. You cranked it.
We cranked
11.
it all the way up, and honestly, one of the most shocking things of the whole process was like when we told the animators, like, okay, now we're going to do this. Like the first stuff they gave back to us was the most appalling thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then you realize, like, oh, they've been repressed for like 30 years. They've been literally like wanting to draw this for so long that at the slightest, inference that they could start doing this stuff, it went like 100 degrees past where we ever could have imagined, and which ultimately in the movie is like massively scaled back.
You guys are like, whoa.
Guys, what's going on in these rooms? This is for mass consumption. Let's be reasonable here. But yes, I think you just see it's been a long fantasy of many people to sexualize animation. We're glad to have done it.
So I'm a gay guy, but I did have a crush on Little Mermaid. Ariel was one of my, I'd say, and I saw it in college, but like
creative crush or
real kind of crush.
Interesting.
Well, and do you guys remember? None of you know this. Do you know The Last Unicorn?
Of course. Yes.
You know The Last
Everyone
Unicorn.
knows The Last Unicorn here.
That unicorn and the lady she was also a lady. She was a lady who turned into a unicorn. There's something about that last unicorn.
She was hot. Yeah.
That was amazing. There's something, but it's funny. Yeah.
Space Angel was a TV show that was done by the people who did Clutch Cargo with the cheapest animation ever done, where they just held drawings and then they had live-action mouths with it. But I can't remember her name. I think her name was Crystal, but she was sort of in a very form-fitting spacesuit and kind of a pert hairdo and all that. And somehow I remember I had a coloring book with her, so I traced her over and over. I don't know what that says, but she was fascinating.
Okay. So last question, we're going to do a quick around the table. Okay. Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse? Favorite and why?
Oh, I gotta say Mickey Mouse, just because he's been around forever and ever and still is entertaining, I think.
Oh, I'd have to go with Bugs Bunny. Just character. I mean, I'm not anti-Mickey Mouse. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. But no, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, I go Bugs Bunny. I mean, I grew up watching it going, I'm watching something for grown-ups. Like the whole time as a kid seeing it, I felt like it was something I was going to grow into. And I did.
Bugs Bunny, 100%. Rich, layered character, a lot of fun. Yeah, real subversive, too.
Yeah, I agree. Bugs Bunny was funny. I couldn't honestly tell you any distinguishing characteristics Mickey Mouse has. Other than physical ones.
I would date Bugs Bunny, and I would marry Mickey Mouse.
Careful. Yeah, I'm in the Bugs camp, too. I think Mickey, the early Mickey was great, but then he got suburban, and he lost it. He sort of had an edge in the early stuff, but Bugs was, like Groucho Marx and all these people.
Paul Rudish is doing some good Mickey Mouse these days.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Paul Rudish.
John Lasseter just called for you.
Yeah, I know.
Well, he was a corporate.
He was a T-shirt.
Yeah, I always thought he was a presenter.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Taraji P. Henson. What's going on? I'm Alicia Keys.
Matt Damon.
Naomi Harris.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for watching. For more videos, be sure to subscribe to Hollywood Reporter.
I don't work for The Hollywood Reporter. They paid me to say that, though.